Jesus saw everything from the beginning, even when I believed I had finally found the person meant for me. Her name came into my life at a time when I was lost, confused, and searching for something real. The moment we started talking, it felt different, like I had known her for years. She understood my silence, my thoughts, and even the things I couldn't explain. I believed she was my soulmate, the one God had chosen for me, and for the first time in my life, I felt complete. Every day became brighter because of her. Every conversation felt meaningful, and every moment with her felt like a blessing. I trusted her completely, without fear, without doubt, and I built my future around the idea that she would always be there. But slowly, without warning, things started to change. Her replies became shorter, her interest faded, and the connection we once shared began to feel distant. At first, I ignored it, telling myself that love goes through phases, that everything would be okay if I stayed patient. But deep inside, something felt wrong. One day, I gathered the courage to ask her what was happening, and the answer I received changed everything. She told me she had started loving someone else. In that moment, it felt like my world stopped. My heart didn't break slowly. It shattered all at once. I couldn't understand how someone who once made me feel so special could walk away so easily. I kept thinking about all the memories we shared, all the promises we made, and all the dreams we built together, wondering if any of it was ever real. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was filled with questions, my heart was heavy with pain, and I felt completely alone. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, why I wasn't enough, and why this had to happen to me. But there were no answers, only silence. Days passed, but the pain didn't leave. It stayed with me, following me everywhere, reminding me of what I had lost. I tried to distract myself, but nothing worked. Every place, every song, every small thing reminded me of her. I felt broken in a way I'd never experienced before. And in that brokenness, I did the only thing I could think of. I turned to Jesus. I didn't have perfect words. I didn't have strong faith at that moment, but I had pain, and I gave that pain to Him. I prayed, not for her to come back, but for peace. I prayed for strength to survive the days that felt unbearable. Slowly, something started to change. It wasn't immediate, it wasn't dramatic, but it was real. The pain didn't disappear, but it became lighter. It felt like I was no longer carrying it alone. There were moments when I could breathe again, moments when my heart felt calm, even if just for a little while. I started to realize something important. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay forever. Some people come into your life to teach you lessons, to shape you, and then they leave when their purpose is complete. At first, this realization hurt even more, but over time, it gave me clarity. I understood that if she could leave me for someone else, then maybe she was never truly meant for me. Real love doesn't leave you confused. It doesn't make you question your worth, and it doesn't disappear when things get difficult. Real love stays. That truth changed the way I saw everything. I stopped blaming myself. I stopped asking what I did wrong. Instead, I started focusing on what I could learn from the situation. I began to rebuild myself, slowly but surely. I spent more time alone, not because I was lonely, but because I needed to understand myself better. I started doing things that brought me peace, things that helped me grow, and things that made me feel alive again. My connection with Jesus became stronger than ever before. I started talking to Him like a friend, sharing my thoughts, my fears, and my hopes. And the more I did that, the more I felt a sense of strength I had never known before. The pain that once controlled me began to lose its power. I started smiling again, not because everything was perfect, but because I knew I was healing. There were still moments when memories came back, but they no longer hurt the same way. They became reminders of how far I'd come. One day, while sitting alone and reflecting on everything that had happened, I realized something that changed my perspective completely. I realized that I had been holding on to a version of love that was not real. I had created a future in my mind based on my feelings, not on reality. And when reality broke that illusion, it felt like my entire world was falling apart. But in truth, it was just something that needed to end so something better could begin. That realization gave me peace. I started seeing my loss differently. I stopped seeing it as something negative, and I started seeing it as something necessary. Maybe if she had stayed, I would have been hurt even more in the future. Maybe losing her was actually protecting me from something I couldn't see. And even after I reached that point where I thought I'd finally healed, life still had more to teach me. Because healing is not a destination, it is a journey that continues in ways we don't always expect. And there were still moments when my heart would quietly revisit the past. Not with pain like before, but with a deep sense of reflection. Trying to understand everything that had happened and why it had to happen that way. And in those moments, I began to see something I had never seen before. I began to understand that love is not just about finding someone who makes you happy. It is about finding someone who stays when things are not perfect. Someone who chooses you not just in good times, but also in difficult moments. And I realized that what I had experienced before was not that kind of love. It was something temporary, something that felt real at the time, but was not strong enough to last. And accepting the truth was not easy, but it was necessary for my growth, because sometimes we hold on to memories and call them love, even when they were never meant to be permanent. And as I continued moving forward, I started to notice how much I had changed as a person. I was no longer the same individual who depended on someone else for happiness. I had learned to stand on my own, to find peace within myself, and to trust that my life had a purpose beyond just relationships. And that realization gave me a strength that I had never felt before, a quiet confidence that no matter what happens, I will be okay, because I am not alone in this journey. Jesus is with me, guiding me, protecting me, and leading me towards something greater than I can imagine. And with that belief, I began to look at life with new eyes. I started appreciating the small things, the moments of peace, the quiet mornings, the simple conversations, and I understood that happiness does not come from one person. It comes from within. It comes from the way we see life and the way we choose to move forward despite everything we have been through. And one day, while sitting alone and watching the sky change colors as the sun was setting, I felt something shift inside me. It was a feeling of complete acceptance, not just of my past, but of my present and my future as well. I no longer felt like I had lost something. I felt like I had gained something far more valuable. I had gained clarity, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of myself. And in that moment, I realized that sometimes the people we think are our soulmates are not actually meant to stay. They are only meant to guide us toward becoming the person we are meant to be. And once their purpose is fulfilled, they leave, not because we are not enough, but because our journey is meant to continue without them. And that truth changed everything for me. I stopped looking at my past with regret, and I started looking at it with gratitude, because without that experience, I would not have become the person I am today. I would not have learned how to trust God completely, even when things don't make sense. And as time went on, I found myself becoming more patient with life. I stopped rushing into things. I stopped expecting immediate answers. And I started trusting the timing of everything, because I realized that what is meant for me will come at the right moment, without force, without confusion, and without pain. And during this time, I also started meeting new people, having new conversations and experiencing life in a different way. But this time, I was not looking for someone to fill a void, because there was no void anymore. I was already complete within myself, and that changed the way I connected with others. I was more calm, more aware, and more focused on understanding rather than rushing into emotions. And one day, I had a simple conversation with someone. Nothing extraordinary, nothing dramatic, but there was something different about it. There was a sense of peace, a sense of comfort that I had never experienced before. There was no pressure, no fear, no confusion, just a natural flow of connection that felt right. And in that moment, I realized something important. Real love does not feel like a struggle. It does not feel like something you have to fight for. It feels like something that naturally belongs in your life. And that realization made me smile, not because I had found love again, but because I had finally understood what love is supposed to feel like, and that understanding was more valuable than anything else, because now I knew what I deserved. I knew what I should accept and what I should walk away from. And that gave me a sense of control over my life that I never had before. I was no longer afraid of being alone, because I had learned that being alone is not the same as being lonely. And sometimes, being alone is necessary to discover who you truly are. And as I continued this journey, I felt a deep sense of peace growing inside me. A peace that did not depend on circuits.